Hey everybody, welcome back to Jocks of All Trades. This is our second show of the week, Sideline GMs, where we talk about draft, the NFL draft, free agency, teams and their needs, just kind of giving you the whole rundown of the offseason for 2022 for the NFL. As you see, we don't have Brad or Luke today. I have brought my brother on, Travis. I would say that he knows more than I do about draft stuff, even though I think I know quite a bit. So happy to have him on and talk about draft stuff with him. Travis, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm
Good.
excited to talk about the draft.
All right. So first, we're going to just go down with one of the worst teams in the NFL, and that is the New York Jets. They're pretty terrible this year. I think we can all agree on that. I just want to kind of run down their needs for this offseason quick. I would say one of their biggest needs is offensive line, specifically at tackle and probably center or guard. Mekhi Becton's pretty good. I think they hit on him, but other than that, I don't really know who they have that's worth talking about. I guess Vera Tucker last year, he did pretty well. What do you think?
Well, there's a situation with Mekhi Becton where they have been questioning like his practice habits. So he may not even be on the team next year, depending upon what happens there. So they may be looking for another tackle.
Might not even be on the team. Is he like that Isaiah Wilson guy that from Tennessee?
Just some of the things I read is just he quits at practice. Doesn't give a full effort sometimes in games. So I don't even think he played the last couple weeks of the season. I think they had somebody else in there. So, so that's something to watch.
That's that first couple picks kind of even became more relevant now.
Yep.
And I don't have a tackle in for them. Probably should, but I don't even know if there is a guy right now that I would call a stud for them to place in there. I would say another need is edge defender. They had Carl Lawson, but he got hurt, I believe, for like the entire year. He didn't play, and hopefully he's healthy and ready to go. But even at that, I think they need someone else. Also, corner, I don't think Bryce Hall and Michael Carter, not the running back, Michael Carter, the corner, I don't know if that's enough. And then safety as well. I think they had Elijah Riley, former Eagle, starting at the end of the year. So that's not what you want. And then their wide receiver room, if you wanted to talk about that, I feel like that's kind of a mess besides Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I think their defense, I think, was probably one of the worst in the NFL this year. So probably, spending both of those picks on defensive players isn't necessarily going to be a bad thing if they go that way.
I guess pretty much they could go any pick besides quarterback and running back, and they'd probably, people would probably be okay with it. Yeah. I would think so. They're one of those teams that, in our last podcast, it's one of those teams that kind of needs pretty much everywhere. Let's take a look quickly at their 2021 draft picks, and you can tell me who you like, who you didn't like. Obviously, they had Zach Wilson and then Vera Tucker from USC. Round 2, they had Elijah Moore. Round 4, Michael Carter, the running back. Round 5, Jamie and Sherwood, as well as Michael Carter, the corner. Jason Pinnock, the corner. Round 6, I'm going to butcher his name. Hamza Nasruddin. I think that's how you pronounce it. Round 6, Brandon Eccles, and then Jonathan Marshall. Any of those guys kind of stand out as hits yet or misses from this draft class?
From what I've seen, I think their first couple picks they hit on pretty good.
Yeah.
I think just from watching a little bit of their games, I'm not an expert by any means, but Michael Carter looked pretty good when he played. I think Elijah Moore's pretty good, and I think Vera Tucker, from what I read, played pretty good this season. So I think they have something there with those guys. But obviously they're a team that just lack of talent, so they can just pretty much go anywhere, and it'll help.
Yeah, and they have projected $49.1 million for cap space this year, so hopefully they can divvy that out to some good guys in free agency. Are you a big believer in first Zach Wilson, and then second their GM Joe Douglas, and third their coach Robert Saleh?
I mean, I think it's hard to give up on Zach Wilson after 1 year. Hard to put too much stock into how his year went. Similar to Sam Darnold, I don't know that he was given a fair shot.
Well, he didn't look too good on the Panthers.
No, he didn't. But yeah, I think with Zach Wilson, you just got to continue to build a team around him. I mean, like I said, their defense was one of the worst in the NFL this year. So I mean, I think they were constantly playing from behind, forcing them to pass the ball probably more than what they wanted to with a rookie quarterback. So I thought he played just towards the end of the season. It seemed like he played a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I'd just like almost every other quarterback that was drafted last year, except for Mac Jones, they all seem to struggle, and that's a lot of it has to do with the team around him. So
yep. I think I guarantee that Mac Jones not on the Patriots would probably be like the rest of these quarterbacks.
Yep.
He just got in the best system possible, the best situation possible, where he has one of the best defenses like ever. Not ever, but like in the NFL. And then they're not really asking him to do much. It's a very run-first kind of offense. So just don't turn the ball over and, they'll be successful. But the other teams, like Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, like in a way, like they were the team. Mm-hmm. So they had to carry the entire team. That doesn't work for young guys. It's rare for them just to carry the entire team their first year. It doesn't happen. Let's look on to their outlook for the 2022 draft. We're just going to go the first 3 rounds for these teams, just a little starter. So they've picked number 4. I have them taking George Karlaftis out of Purdue. Do you see them going that way? Is that a realistic pick for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on where he falls during combine and stuff like that. I don't know if he'll be picked that high or not, but there's a lot of time between now and then. But I don't know. I think back to when Robert Saleh was on the 49ers and the just the pass rush that they had that year. They went to the Super Bowl, so they don't have anything nearly close to that.
Besides winning, but I don't even know if he's as good as Armstead or Buckner. Is he? I don't think he is.
No, so that's not going to hurt him to go edge rusher.
Yeah, that's true, though. There's a lot of time in between now and the draft. A lot of guys kind of rise up when it comes to pro days and combine, and a lot of guys kind of their stock goes down because of how they performed. So Karlaftis, I don't really know what his measurables are going to be, but he could very well be one of those guys that fall a little bit because he's not one of those, at least in my eyes, he's not one of those freaky athletic guys that you saw like Monday night in the championship game. Pick number 7, this might be a little bit of a reach, but I feel like the Jets would do this, and that's taking Garrett Wilson at number 7. We talked about their receivers briefly, but like Jameson Crowder is a free agent. Denzel Mims, I'm pretty sure, is a bust. Corey Davis is a solid number 2, and then Elijah Moore is a good, number 2A or number 3. So I feel like they'd want to get him a stud number 1. Do you think they would go that route?
They could. You never know. I mean, some teams reach for guys. That happens. I would think if a guy like Kyle Hamilton's available, they might go there, or one of the corners, if they're available, might go there. But we've seen teams ignore needs to go for flashy player that's going to help them on offense. So I think Garrett Wilson's going to be a good player. I don't know if he's top 10, but
yeah, they do reach on those guys quite a bit. I think I saw one mock draft today, and it was the Vikings taking Garrett Wilson at like 14. I'm like, do they even need Garrett Wilson? Sometimes these teams just get stupid, and they're like, well, we don't need him, but He probably won't get that many targets, but he's good. I don't know if that's stupid or not, but like Vikings need a lot more than Garrett Wilson to help them out.
The team you're talking about next is a case in point example of that last year.
Yes, 100%. We'll get to that. The next two guys I have here, I'm pretty sure they're going to go earlier than this. Kind of guarantee it, actually, but I use the Draft Network. If anybody's familiar with the Draft Network, I use that quite a bit, and I'm pretty sure these guys will go earlier. That's Nakobe Dean, who you love, and Ahmad Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati. I feel like those two guys would help out that team tremendously. I like CJ Mosley, but I feel like they need kind of like a stud for the future in the middle there. And then, like we talked about with their corners, I think they need another guy on the outside. I feel like he's probably one of the better corners in this draft, other than Derek Stingley. But even him, he was kind of, I think, banged up this year. So,
Yep.
What do you think about Nakobe Dean, like your boy?
I mean, if you watch the national championship game, I think he was pretty much, along with every other Georgia defensive player, all over the field. But I think if he would actually drop to the second round, somebody would get him there. I think that would be a steal.
Yeah.
For sure, he would be somebody that you could build your defense around. CJ Mosley is, I think, still under contract for another year with the Jets, but most likely will be, gone after that. So, got to find a replacement for him and an upgrade for him at some point. And corner definitely they need secondary help, whether it's safety or corner. So, also a good pick.
I don't really know where they'll go. Like I said, they have so many needs. I do think these guys will go before 35 and 38. I just wondering, I know we talked about this before, why are you more in love with Nakobe Dean than Devin Lloyd? I haven't seen much of Devin Lloyd, but I was just looking at his stats the other day, and he had over like 100 tackles, over 10 sacks, like 5 picks. I mean, it seems like he can do a lot as well.
Yeah, and I think he's I think he's a good player too. I haven't really watched Utah that much either, so I can't really.
No one does.
Other than the Rose Bowl and like one other game, but I don't know. I just think with Nakobe Dean, I mean, I think he's going to test really well at the combine. I don't know what Devin Lloyd's measurables are going to be there, but he kind of reminds me a little bit of Roquan Smith from the Bears. Nakobe does. I think the same size almost, and I think just that sideline to sideline type speed. He was an animal against Michigan. I mean, he was all over the field. So,
do you think he could have as big of an impact as Micah Parsons did this year with the Cowboys? Or is that...
Depends. I mean, they're totally different types of players.
Yeah.
But I think he's like, he's the signal caller on defense at Georgia right now. So I think he's a guy that team captain, just a guy you can build your defense around. And I think Robert Saleh would appreciate a guy like that. But yeah, if he's available there, he would definitely do it.
Oh, Brad has a comment. Travis, what do you think of Sauce Gardner for the Jets? We just talked about that. Is it too high to draft him? Let's say they pick at number 7. Is that too high? And then what if Stingley is on the board at 4 or 7? Is that a good spot for those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, there's a lot of time between now and the combine and pro days and all that stuff. So where guys are actually going to fall on these boards once we get to draft time will be interesting to see. I mean, I think most people have Stingley as the first corner right now going off the board. I think at the beginning of the year, he was a lot higher on some people's boards than where he is now. And I think the same with Gardner too. But, I think Gardner is like 6'2", over 200 pounds. So he's a pretty big kid.
He didn't allow like one single touchdown this year.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure, which is crazy. He kind of. I was watching a little bit of him. I'm no game watcher by any means. So I'm not going to fool people there, but it's just he's very long, kind very long arms. I feel like he has a similar stature and makeup to Jalen Ramsey physically. Obviously, there's a whole other part to the game, but if you're looking for that long, lanky corner who can run, it's probably going to be him. Also, love the nickname. Let's move on to the other terrible New York team. That's the New York Giants here. As people know, we're both Eagles fans, and we love to see when teams in our division suck. And we're very grateful because the Giants have sucked for the last, I don't know, like 7-8 years or more. The Giants have a lot of needs. Thank goodness they got rid of Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge. I was hoping they would keep them around because they're both so terrible. Just a few days ago, Saquon Barkley and Joe Judge both said, "Oh, this team's trending in the right direction. We're going to go somewhere." And then they get tanked. They get fired. So both Gettleman and Joe Judge get fired. So that's a whole big issue. I guess that's my first question. Where do you think they should go for a GM/head coach? What kind of head coach do you think they should get?
They got to get somebody in there that's going to, I think, create an identity for what they want that team to be. I just think under Joe Judge and even like Shermer before that, like the team just didn't have any identity. No idea.
He got fired too, by the way.
What's that?
Said Shermer got fired too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well. Yeah, so I think they just need to get somebody in there who's going to, try to build an identity on that football team. It's going to start first with whoever they get at GM. I think yesterday when I looked, they had like 9 or 10 interviews scheduled. So I think a couple guys from the Ravens, a couple guys from the Bills, maybe. But I don't know where he goes as far as head coach because I mean, looking at the list of available coaches right now, I just don't see anybody in there that really kind of.
There's no one attractive. Not like the last couple of years.
Unless you can lure one of these guys from college to come to the NFL, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Those guys are in good situations where they're at.
Yeah, I think the only guy that would be attractive to me is probably Harbaugh, and I think he really could lure him away with reason. I don't know if he'll listen to reason, but just be like, "Hey, listen, dude, this was your best year at Michigan. Probably you're going to be your best year ever at Michigan, and you still got murdered in your first college football championship game. Like this is Michigan's ceiling, I think. So." So I feel like if he wanted to go somewhere else, which I think the best option for him would probably be maybe the Jaguars. I feel like that'd be an attractive spot just because of Trevor Lawrence. However, their GM's still there, and Shad Khan's a pretty horrible owner, so that might he might not want to go there. But in terms of best fit for him, I would say Bears or Jaguars, obviously, just because those two quarterbacks are there. And if he did get the Jaguars job, I feel like that'd be a good spot because he has the number 1 overall pick, and he could draft his former player Aiden Hutchinson at number 1. But you're right; there's not many attractive people, I think, besides him. And again, the situation, who wants to fix the Giants? Who wants to fix the Jaguars? It's a kind of a impossible task, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, nowadays you're only given, look at Brian Flores, I thought he was a good coach.
Yep, me too.
In 3 years in Miami, guess, that wasn't enough, so they let him go. So you really don't get tons of time to make an impact, and I think for some of these teams, you need time to be able to fix things. So, yeah, so I don't know what the Giants will do, but we'll have to see. They have a lot of issues they got to fix.
For sure. Let's go on to the New York Giants draft from last year. Don't think it's going to be very good. Not that I remember. We talked about them getting Kadarius Toney in the first round, which I think that's going to bug me for a while. I still have no idea why they got him, why they selected him. Makes no sense. So even if they would have drafted Devonta Smith, I still think that would have been stupid as well. Round 2, they got Ojulari, who was pretty good for them this year, I think. Round 3, Aaron Robinson, who ended up on IR. Round 4, Ellerson Smith. I don't think he did much. Round 6, Gary Brightwell. Didn't even know that dude existed. And then round 6 again, Rodarius Williams, who I think ended up on IR as well. Walk me through that draft and what went wrong for them.
Well, am I making this up, or did they have a shot at drafting Rashawn Slater and traded out of a spot to do that? They traded with the Bears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was at 12.
That was okay. They traded with the Bears at 11. So they did get a lot of picks for that, for making that trade. But
Slater, who's going to the Pro Bowl, I think.
Yeah.
Not a good look for a team that has been desperate for a competent O lineman.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that Tony was. I mean, I think he flashed in some games this year. I don't know that he had a full season.
No,
I think he got hurt, but yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a bad player. I just, again, like, do you need him? And when you don't have an offensive line to protect your quarterback, and even when he is protected, you have questions on how good he is. Does it really matter who you have at receiver? So, yeah, so I think that's something that whoever they bring in at GM, they're going to have to change the mindset of how they draft. I think Ojulari had actually a pretty good year this year. I think if it wasn't for Micah Parsons being so dominant, he probably would have got more recognition than what he did.
Yeah.
Because I think he had 7 or 8 sacks for the whole year. So, but yeah, I don't know anything about the other guys that they drafted and where they're at. But
yeah, Brian, you're right. The Giants are a dumpster fire. Yeah, they started long before Danny Dimes, and that's another good question. Is like, can Danny Dimes be the guy? Personally, I don't think he can be. You think quarterback is one of their biggest needs going into this draft?
I don't think it's going to hurt for them to look at it, because I mean, we know anytime you get a new GM and a new coach, they want to bring in their own guy. So I think the fact that Gettleman's gone, Joe Judge is gone, even after they said that Joe Judge and Danny Dimes are going to be back next year, the fact that they said that and then fired Joe Judge doesn't make it a good situation for Daniel Jones either. So,
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, if there's a guy there that they feel is worth taking at quarterback, they might look at it. But again, I think your issues lie a lot deeper than that position. So
yeah, they have a lot of needs here. Quarterback obviously is up there. They run a little bit of a weird defense, or they did. I know that they like Ojulari, but on the other side, if they do have an other side, the Oshane Ximines, like, they're not in love with him. He's not really doing great things. I say linebacker, I feel like it's a big need. Their secondary seems pretty solid. It's just I think it's getting a little bit older, so it's not necessarily young talent they have back there. But like, I feel like if you went through every year in the last 10 years and you took a shot for how many times like offensive line was a need, you'd be drunk or you'd be dead. So they need it every year and they haven't fixed it. I don't know what kind of guy they can get. Did I have some? I do have Evan Neal, them taking Evan Neal at number 5 or number 6, and then the other pick would be Kenny Pickett. Do you think they could go that direction, assuming those guys are still on the board?
they should. I don't know if they will, but they should. I mean, I think that they could pretty much upgrade on any part of their offensive line there. I wouldn't think that, I don't know how high Tyler Lindenbaum from Iowa will go, but I don't think they've had a legit, great center for
Since who was it? Tom Coughlin's like son-in-law or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while. So
Oh, Sean O'Hara, right?
Yeah, Sean O'Hara. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. So yeah, their interior hasn't been great. So they could definitely go that route if you think that he's worth that spot at 10. But their pass rush wasn't great this year either. So
No.
they can definitely upgrade that. And obviously we'll have to see what kind of defense they run next year with a new
Yeah.
coach. But
The inside of their defense is pretty solid. I feel like they have
yes,
Derek Lawrence, Leonard Williams,
Williams.
Danny Shelton as a backup. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of big boys there. Just they need some speed on the outside, I think. Which I feel like I don't know if you agree with this, but from what I've seen, like a lot of the prospects, like the high prospects, the good ones, like the deep positions, I feel like are at linebacker and edge, defensive end. At least from what I've seen, I feel like there's a lot of good guys, going into the second and third round too. I feel like this is a pretty deep draft for defensive ends and edge rushers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of edge rushers that are going to be available, and I think it'll be interesting to see how some of them, especially from the smaller schools, test during the combine and how far up they go. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that their defense overachieved this year. I think Patrick Graham, I think, is their defensive coordinator. I think he, did a good job with what he had there, but they definitely need some more talent.
Yeah, they had Blake Martinez too. He went on IR. He didn't play much at all, I think. So who knows if he's not the greatest linebacker in the world, but he is. I think he is kind of a needed guy on the inside if you had him. But again, I don't know if he'll bounce back. I also have tight end as a need. Evan Ingram, he sucks. He's awful. I feel like every time I see him play the Eagles, like he makes like the biggest drop in the world, and it's like, but that's what you're known for. You're supposed to be like a receiver at tight end, and you can't even catch. So they need a real tight end for sure. So after picks 5 and 6, there's number 36 and 67 as of right now. I think it will still probably be 67, but I have Christian Harris at linebacker as well. I have Kobe Bryant, not that Kobe Bryant, RIP. And then at tight end, I have them selecting Jeremy Rucker out of Ohio State. What do you think of any of those guys as a fit for the Giants?
Yeah, I think they would all be upgrades over what they have right now. Christian Harris, I think, is a pretty good linebacker. He made a lot of plays in that national championship game too. But I think it's just going to be interesting to see what kind of, who comes in at coach, what kind of defense they run, what they want to do on offense. And I think that'll kind of dictate what they do as far as, the draft goes. Tight end I think is definitely a need for them. I don't know if you need to draft one that high. I think they still, you can roll with Evan Ingram, I think, for another year or two maybe. And then, see where that gets you. But offensive line, I think, has to be their biggest priority.
Yeah.
For sure.
They could probably draft 2 or 3 and people would be happy.
Yeah.
A comment from Brian again. I'm calling a trade with San Fran, swapping their 6 to San Fran for Jimmy G and San Francisco's first rounder. Oh, I don't know about that one, Brian. I don't know Jimmy G. As a competent quarterback, I think he's probably better than Daniel Jones.
As an Eagles fan, I would take that.
Oh, as an Eagles fan, yeah, for sure.
The Giants did that.
Yeah. It depends who goes in, I think. Like, if a head coach goes in, he's like, dude, I don't want Daniel Jones. He's nothing. Like, find me a veteran quarterback I can just stick in there. And, yeah, I think Jimmy Garoppolo could be someone that you go after just because I don't think the Niners are going to run the table this year. I think they're going to find out that their ceiling with Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, I know they went to the Super Bowl with him, but, he didn't really do much to get them there. So I think they're going to find out their ceiling's not very high, or they know that already. So I think they'd be willing to dump him off for the right price. and roll with Trey Lance. So yeah, I could see that happening. I just just depends who they get in there, I think.
Yep.
So let's move on a little bit here. Their cap space right now, it's only like $4 million. So whoever comes in has a lot of work to do for the New York Giants. A lot. Because you don't know if you have no quarterback. You don't know. No offensive line. New coach, new GM. You have a lot of good high picks, but you don't have much cap space to work with. You have a running back that you drafted second overall a few years ago. Are you going to keep him? You have an overload of wide receivers. The one that's being paid like $20 million a year, who only had like 20 catches last year. So, and your defense, who's I think very fine. It's good. It was good last year. Parts of it, it's getting older, so you're going to need to replenish that as well. So, it's a big task, and I think the Giants' ownership, I think, is very similar to the Jaguars' ownership as well. So, like, I don't know who would be willing to take that. It's. I feel like the Texans are more desirable right now than the Giants or the Jets are, or the Jaguars are. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants have invested a lot of resources into. I mean, Daniel Jones was what? Like he was a top 10 pick. Saquon Barkley was the number 2 overall pick, and you don't know if those guys are going to be long term pieces on that team or not. So that's a huge waste of resources there. Then you got to figure out with guys like Sterling Shepard and like James Bradbury, Kyle Rudolph. I think they're still on the books after this year, and potentially could get cut, but that might actually end up costing them money to do that. But they've wasted a lot of resources, I think, in guys that haven't either panned out or they don't really need. So they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. But that's good with me, because the longer they stink, the better the Eagles have a chance. Let's move on to the Carolina Panthers, who were very disappointing this year after the Sam Darnold trade. Just not a good year. The Panthers got rid of Joe Brady, which I was kind of mad about. Like, I don't know why they did that. I mean, I know their offense wasn't great, but like, let's look at their offense this year. They had Sam Darnold, who everyone's like, well, it's all Adam Gase's fault, and it very well could have been, but Darnold didn't do anything tremendous with the Panthers, number one. Their offensive line is a crap show. It's awful. Their best part of their offense, Christian McCaffrey, could not stay on the field. Terrace Marshall was hurt. Robbie Anderson's overrated. And DJ Moore, I think, is a good receiver. But, like, I don't know why they put all that on Joe Brady, especially now that, like, they're looking at replacements. And I've heard 2 names. That's Jay Gruden and Bill O'Brien. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand that. I think it's stupid.
I didn't understand the hire from the get-go. I mean, I get he was the big name circling around the NFL and college. But, Matt Rule, I think, wants to be I think their organization wants to be a run first, physical type team. And, that's not what Joe Brady was bringing to the table. And I don't think they have, and again, I don't think, like you said, I don't think they have the personnel even to be that type of team right now. So I didn't really get it from the get-go, but I think that, whoever they bring in next, that's kind of what they want to be, is a, run-first team.
Well, to be a run-first team, you're going to need an offensive line. That's one of their biggest needs. Let's just look at their depth chart. I just find this really funny. I just look at these guys. I'm like, who? Brady Christensen was their pick from last year. I think second-round pick from BYU. They played him everywhere. He doesn't really have a position right now. But then also you have Dennis Daly, Michael Jordan, not that Michael Jordan, Pat Elflein, John Miller, and then Taylor Moton, who's their right tackle. But he's being paid like $20 million next year, a cap hit of like $20 million. So like, is he worth it? No, he's not. And then they have Cam Irving, who went on IR, but Cam Irving, I feel like, has been everywhere. He's very below average. So I would say they probably need an upgrade in like 3 positions on their offensive line. I feel like that would be their first move. And obviously, quarterback. We don't know about Sam Darnold. And please don't get one of these retreads. Like, don't go after Jimmy G and be like, oh, we found our quarterback. We really believe in him. Like, no, you don't. You couldn't find anybody, so you settled on the guy. That's what Teddy Bridgewater is. Like, they settled for him. They're like, well, we can't find a quarterback, so I guess it's Teddy Bridgewater. Like, we're so happy. No, you're not. You had to find someone, so you threw him in there.
It's the alternative strategy to some teams that draft a quarterback in the first round every year. Where they waste their draft resources on doing that. The Panthers pretty much just take the average quarterbacks, don't give up too much for them, and just, hey, see if it works. So far, it hasn't.
I mean, I guess it could work. Anything's possible, but not a big believer in that strategy. I would say someone opposite Derek Brown at D tackle, maybe a middle linebacker. I know they have Shaq Thompson there and Hassan Reddick, but neither of them are really middle linebackers. Christian McCaffrey could be on the move, I feel like, if they're getting tired of paying him and if he's not going to be on the field. And then corner, I know they have Stephon Gilmore, but is he going to be there long-term? Is CJ Henderson, is he a bust? Is he going to be there long-term? And then J.C. Horn, obviously, tore his ACL. So if Gilmore comes back, then I don't think they need one. But if he doesn't, that might be something to look out for. However, they only have the first-round pick, no second or thirds, and they have later picks. So I have about 6 names on here, and I wonder which one you'd go with. We have Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Evan Neal, Linderbaum, Ikem Ekwonu, or Kyle Hamilton. I feel like Kyle Hamilton's kind of like Jeremy Chin, so I'm not really sure about that. Any of those guys or other guys that you think of that could be their pick in the first round?
I mean, if Ikem Ekwonu is there when they pick, I think that would be a great pick for them. I think we'll see how it all shakes out, but he might end up being the first offensive lineman off the board when it comes to draft time. He's played pretty much every position across the offensive line. I think this was his first year playing at tackle, and he dominated. So I think he would be a good pick for them if he's there. Evan Neal also I think would be a good pick. Again, he's played I think almost every position on the offensive line except for center. Really good run blocker. Would fit, I think, with what they're looking for. So I think they would go up front. Either, whether that's on the offensive line or defensive line. But then, like you said, they only have one first-round pick. So is it a possible situation where they trade down and try to get more picks? So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that would be a good option, especially if they want to recoup at least like a third rounder. I do think their defense as is, like I feel like they have a lot of talent there. Like if Horn gets healthy, if Gilmore comes back, like if Yetur Gross-Matos takes a step, they already have Brian Burns, they have Derek Brown, Hassan Reddick. I think had a really good year this year. So like
He's
they
a
have a
free
lot
agent.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna need to put some money into him if they want to keep him. They have about $23 million, but again, I said Moten is being paid like $20 million, so I feel like you could probably restructure that or just get rid of him. I don't think anybody would miss him. Maybe. So that would be an option to free up some stuff. Let's look at their 2021 draft picks. Go through that quickly before we wrap up. Round 1, they got J.C. Horn. Round 2, Marshall Jr. from LSU, the receiver. Round 3, Brady Christensen, who played all over this year. Doesn't have a specific position, though. Round 4, Chuba Hubbard, who I loved. Round 5, Davion Nixon. Keith Taylor, corner from Washington. Round 6, Deontay Brown, the guard from Bama. Shai Smith, receiver from South Carolina. Thomas Fletcher, long snapper from Alabama, and then Phil Hoskins, D tackle from Kentucky. I was just wondering what kind of info you can give me on Thomas Fletcher, the long snapper from Alabama. Oh no, he's gone.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, long snappers are probably the most important position in football. So, definitely got to make sure you have the right guy there. You don't want any of those bad snaps happening on your field goals or punts.
Could screw over the game. Man.
People take that for granted. So yeah, never a bad idea to invest in your long snappers.
I do think the first 4 picks could end up being solid for them. I mean, if J.C. Horn gets healthy, if Marshall gets healthy, again, Christensen played a lot last year, and Chuba Hubbard could be their number 1 back if they get rid of McCaffrey. So, looks decent from my perspective, at least.
I was gonna say I think they've drafted well. I even think the year before where they just went, heavy on defense. I think a lot of those guys have played pretty well so far. But I think both Matt Rule and their GM came out and said they just need to focus on getting more physical on both the defensive line and offensive line. Put a lot of money in Christian McCaffrey, so if you're not going to
if he's not on the field, you're wasting a lot of money.
You're wasting a lot of money, and when he's on the field, if you can't block for him and get him in space, then
not worth
the point.
Yeah. Lastly, do you have any other options for their offensive coordinator? Anybody that you think would be a good fit there?
I mean, I know that they're looking at Bill O'Brien. I know they're looking at Jay Gruden. Again, I don't know that there's a ton of guys out there right now that really are great hires. But I think they got to avoid going with the flashy name like they did with Joe Brady. And I think Bill O'Brien, at least, I don't know what Bill O'Brien wants to do. I don't know if he wants to go back to the NFL. I don't know if he wants to stay in college. I don't know what he wants to do there, but he can he can run an offense, and it's going to be a balanced offense. So I think he's shown to be able to do more with less, from his previous coaching stops. So wouldn't be a bad one. Just got to see what they do there and who else they try to interview.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to consider for the Panthers this year. I feel like Matt Rule could be on the warm seat, maybe not the hot seat, but the warm seat this year. Don't know how many years he has left, especially if they keep going this way. But I feel like out of these 3 teams, the Panthers, in my opinion, have a little bit more of a head start to relevancy than these 2, just because I think they do have a lot of young talent on the team, and I think a couple O linemen and a good quarterback away. And it's hard to get a good quarterback, but a couple of linemen and a good quarterback away from being, relevant, while the other 2 teams kind of need pretty much the whole kitchen sink. So,
at least they know what they want to be.
Yeah, they have a culture, they have a coach. I think they know what they want to be. I'm still really not sure what the Jets want to be. I don't know what kind of offense they're expecting to be. If they want to be a run-heavy team, or if they just want to fling it around like Zach Wilson and pray that he becomes, Patrick Mahomes. But I don't know if that's the best strategy because there's only one Patrick Mahomes. So looking forward to seeing him in year 2. Hopefully he develops for them. Poor Jets fans. Not upset for the Giants fans, though. They can keep crying. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode of Sideline GMs. Next week, we'll have 3 more teams for you with kind of their outlook for the offseason. Travis, thanks for joining us and helping out. Greatly appreciate it. You're always welcome on any pod that you want to be on.
All right. So, I might take you up on that.
All right. Sounds good. So we'll see you next time, guys, and have a good one. Bye.